Hello, people! Welcome to another edition of Friday Night Knives here on A Dose of Drew. And tonight we have the Kizer Cryptid in 154 cm. Let's see if I can get that to focus. 154 cm. There we go. That took a minute. And again, the Kizer Cryptid. Fantastic little knife that hasn't gotten a lot of attention. This was a Kickstarter fan design. And it's interesting, quite honestly, for what it is. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But let's get into some of the hard measurements. All right, first things up, we'll go tip to scale and tip to tail. So tip to tail, just barely under 7 inches in. Tip to scale is right at about 3. Pretty square and straight, easy to measure. Very nice in that particular bits. Something else that's going to pop up here is, how heavy is it? Well, it ain't all that heavy. In fact, it's quite light. Deep carry clip. It comes in several colors. Very, very interesting design. We'll hit a couple more empirical measurements here. Blade stock. Ooh, 1.1105. That's about 3 millimeters. And behind the edge, if I can even get it, this is the fun, tricky spot. Does it hit the exact spot every time? No! That's about 16 or 17 thousandths behind the edge. Not ridiculously small, but still pretty darn thin behind it. Excuse me, behind the edge. Excuse me for that cough there. High flat grind, not completely. This modified Wharncliffe sheep's foot, worn foot, whatever you want to call it. It's got that tight, straight clip, much like you would think of as like a Wharncliffe or something. It is, however, not flat and straight across. There is, without a doubt, some belly to it. For those of you who can't see, that is some curve to there. It's got some belly to it. All right. So let's get into the referentials. Spider Coast sandwich. Bam. Look at all that hand space. I want to really emphasize that. Lining up the front of the choil, the back of the Cryptid matches the Paramilitary 2's beak. That's a lot of hand space for a blade that basically has as much cutting space as the Paramilitary, as the Para 3. Again, a little bit more hand space too, because of that beak. So quite a bit of hand area and hand space on the handle for how small it is, which a lot of people don't like about some of the smaller ones. They like to feel like they have a full grip on their knife, which is a very important thing to have. And this helps to provide that. And of course, it's just a blur. As you can see, again, hand space, very high for its size, and not just any leak, but a random leak. There you are. Again, lots of hand space. The random leak kind of falls into a similar category here. Please pardon the air conditioning. It's warm this time of year. So there's a ton of hand space there. There's quite a bit that goes with it. We'll just have to, as far as that goes, the blade length, not quite the same, but it isn't as slim as the leak as well. And of course, with the perennial favorites, that is the Benchmade Bug Out. Again, if we bring this to hand space, lots of hand space, even if it has a slightly smaller blade area. And once again, hand space equivalent to the Civivi Elementum, and blade length that actually isn't that far off. Very similar in size, hand space, and everything to the Civivi Elementum. And that is very much a compliment and a benefit to this knife, as that was one of the beauties of the Civivi. Relatively small size, lots of hand space even for larger hands. Fantastic little value. And of course, here it is next to my Wiener. And as you can see, my Wiener is bigger, thicker, and has better shape. And that is all that matters. All right, let's get into the rest of the damn nice. So for those of you who have not seen it in a while, there it is, the design, aesthetics, mechanics, noteworthy points: intended purpose, cost to value ratio, expectations, and of course, if to make it a damn nicer, any requests. Design. This is actually a fan design, and if there's one thing that really stands out about this knife, it's the design. The attention to detail. First of all, the choil that is a full finger really gets you into a pinch grip. You can get a full pinch grip on it, so the ergonomics as part of the design are fantastic. It's got that rounded kind of pin tail or drop tail that tucks nicely into the palm of the hand. The dip right here, as well as the jimping on the top, has you at the long or short scoring, right? The super detailed scoring or that sort of thing. And there's still plenty of room for a heavy duty. It's a little bit tight for 4 fingers. My 4 fingers just fit. I'm about a large in width and a medium in length. But of course, if you are someone that has slightly larger than average hands, this might not be enough knife in the back bit, but in the back grip. But once you choke up, there's plenty here, and there's a lot of choil for even the widest fingers and a nice round off. It's not that it's dull there, but it doesn't go to a sharp point. It kind of goes to an obtuse angle, which makes that little heel right there remarkably safe for what it is, meaning that you have a lot of room, and if you push up into that blade edge, it's not going to make you pay. With the clip, you can get your finger all the way out to the very tip, so you can control depth as well as drag cuts, pressure out on there, things like being able to pick a sliver or get up there. Fantastic design when it comes to ergonomics and lots of different grips, like just being able to grab this. The somewhat sheep's foot Warren Cliffy style with this straight clip, almost straight secondary bevel, high flat grind. This is a slicing machine. It is relatively thin behind the edge, has good CPM, or 154 CM, one of my favorite budget steels, if not, well, we'll talk about later, if not the best budget steel in my opinion. Just really high quality out there. Great sliciness. The geometry is fine. The edge is great from the factory. Coming at it with a lot on there. The aesthetics, I love the look of that sharp Warren Cliffy style. I think that looks good. The extra curves on here, one of the things that, while it does all this, there's a secondary benefit, which is when it's closed, which also looks good and feels good. And that's, you have 2 fingers here and 2 fingers here, and it kind of just tucks in. That extra dip means that when you grab it closed in your hand, it's a nice solid feel. If it's in your pocket, in your hand, it is actually, those curves make it very comfortable and also make it look really cool. Even when it's closed, it kind of has a symmetry to it, which doesn't make it, it's a knife, it's a tool, it looks good, there's all of that, it's fantastic. And it looks good. This is my understanding of it, is this is based on the Kizer original, which is one of my absolute favorite Kizers. So it's starting with a great platform and then turn it into something really good. The mechanics, as you just saw, actually pretty amazing. Look at that. So yeah, plunge lock has very linear and controlled action. If I didn't have butter all over my fingers, right, you can very much control the descent with the button lock. It's very easy to manipulate the thumb studs. They're in the right place for both flicks. You can just use the button lock. The thumb studs also facilitate the pinch grip, so you have multiple action. There's no flip, but with the thumb studs, you can absolutely do the reverse flick. You can do the thumb flick. Of course, the button is able to deploy as well as retract the blade. All sorts of parts on the mechanic. It is smooth. It is linear. I'm trying to make sure. I'm pretty sure it's, yeah, there we go. I'm pretty sure it's, hold on. Okay, yeah, It's bearings. I was like, I was pretty sure, but I couldn't see through. And then I finally found some air gaps. So there's definitely some bearings in the pivot there. Very, very nice. Full liner, not inset. So despite all that lightweight, it's not an inset liner, which gives it a bit of thickness. As I was mentioning before with the leak, the leak's kind of thin. This gives you a little bit more meat and girth in your hand, while still, see if I can even get that. There's some big weight reduction in there. Like, I don't know if that's real. I'm trying to get that to, you can see there's big trapezoid chunks out of the front to really help with that lightning. So it's got a lot of great stuff when it comes to the mechanics. Smooth, linear, controllable action. Very, very nice. Very easy to manipulate one-handed. So if you're doing stuff and you pull this out, you don't need to drop what you're doing in order to provide yourself with a tool. And that is fantastic. When it comes to the rest, so design, aesthetics, mechanics. Design, absolutely fantastic. Aesthetics, I like it. It's definitely something that's going to be subjective. Some people may not. They just think it looks too funny or funky, maybe too many curves, too many stuff. I definitely like the curves. My hand is very curved. It has lots of little lumps and bumps in it, and these little lumps and bumps seem to fit my lumps and bumps quite well. Noteworthy point on this. This is a fan design. This was a Kickstarter campaign for other people to just bring a design to Kizer, and this is the one that won the votes. And it's very well deserved. I don't know the other designs. I didn't vote on it. My understanding of where this came through to someone else, this was more of the fans and less of the reviewers, and I'm glad to see it because this is a fan design that really hits a lot of the EDC stuff, and that's kind of the noteworthy point. Right? This is a fan designed and voted on EDC design. That's a very noteworthy point. And it also brings us right to the intended purpose. This is an EDC knife designed by fans and voted by Kizer fans on which one was the best. Is there any surprise that it's really good? No, it shouldn't. This was essentially a knife by committee where the Kizer fans said, yeah, that's the best one. Show us what that's like when you build it. Guess what? It's good. It's actually a fantastic EDC knife. There's a couple of things I like to throw on here. This is indeed a package piercer with that acute point. It is a shrink wrap slicer. You can absolutely control to a high degree how that tip cuts through that thick plastic. It is a cardboard carver extraordinaire. This thing glides through boxes, and I mean it glides through boxes quite well. And of course, it is an envelope eviscerator extraordinaire. That tip, either in this grip, in the forward grip, or in the reverse grip, the tip gets into the under the flap of the envelope and really just starts slicing it open with aplomb, and does it extraordinarily well. So it does that EDC task stuff extraordinarily well. It's not inexpensive. It's right in that $70-something range. You can find it. I think MSRP might be $79. I'd have to double check. I should have double checked before I record this, but I didn't. It might even be as low as $69. It's not expensive. 154 cm, micarta, great design, button lock with outstanding execution, all for well under $100 and most likely under 80, if not even 70. It's right in that meat of the ballpark for EDC. Is there a lot of nines there? Yes, and it starts to become very much a matter of what you prefer. This Cryptid provides a very good case for just a general, all-around, well-conceived, high-value EDC knife. As a noteworthy point and intended purpose, I think that's what this one really is. That leads us directly into the cost-to-value ratio. This is a high-value EDC. I actually would score it at 96 on the value. 154 cm is a great steel. Micarta is fantastic. The plunge lock, the button lock, crowned. Can't make it go when you pinch. You have to positively disengage or engage that plunge lock in order for it to work. That's fantastic. It does all of that. The execution, it's shiny. It could use a different clip, but there's plenty of those out there. You can probably even find black ones on Kizer's website. They use this clip a lot. and you can get black replacement ones. So you can get a whole hardware replacement. These are pretty standard Kizer. It comes with extra screws with it. Kizer does a lot of that nowadays. Fantastic idea. It's really hard not to complain, or it's really hard to complain about such high value that you get in here. This is just a really, the only thing that could really make this even more so is if you knocked another $10 off the price, and then you're looking at one of the best values out in the market, bar none. You put this thing at $50 and you're starting to hit that 9 with 154 cm instead of RPM 9, and you're starting to look at one of the best values out on the market. And if it's literally a matter of like $10, and that's just because of the stiff competition in this particular market space. And as far as expectations, I expected this to be good. I honestly am very pleasantly surprised at how much this exceeded my expectations, at just how usable and EDC friendly this knife is. This design is absolutely fantastic when it comes to EDC materials. And because of that, there is requests. I have requests. This 154 cm version, fantastic. It's really good. So two things. One, give me a larger one, sort of like the original XL. Instead of the 3-inch blade, give me a 3.3 or a 3.4, maybe even a 3.5. Give me a slightly larger blade. Put me up there and give me something a little bit bigger with a little bit more hand space for the larger size, and just a slightly larger blade, both tall, right? We're talking about proportional extensions to a hand, not to the knife. So that you have a slightly larger blade, you have all the benefits of it, all with a slightly more engaging, larger platform, especially for people with larger hands, or as I like to say, slightly larger than average. But it is pretty darn good in that sense. The other thing would be is, to me, MagnaCut, yeah, S35VN, okay, S45VN, but this is also one of those designs that to me just begs for a high-end version out of something like S90V. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, MagnaCut, but this particular design for me, this is an S90V blade that I would love to see made in a high-end version where you get some polished micarta a little bit, maybe some contouring or anything like that, or even possibly the titanium version. But just a higher-end version. Kizer does some really good S90V when they do it. It's not something they do all often. I've seen CJRB do some incredible S90V. There's lots of good ones out there. But that would be the two requests I have. One is a slightly larger version, and of course an S90V version. I think this knife is a fantastic EDC knife. It was designed by a fan. Fans voted on it. They saw what was a lot of potential, and I don't think they were wrong. I think this knife has tons of potential and tons of value as it sits. The 154 cm is a great steel. The design really lends itself to making the most of that steel, as well as providing a compact but still fully functional EDC package. And that's a pretty neat trick to pull off, along with being stylish and very, very useful, and something that pulls the passions of knife folk. So that's a pretty neat trick to do. I don't know about the sales on it, but I think more people should check this out. I haven't seen a lot of reviews. I haven't seen it pick up a lot of stuff. Personally, I think this is a sleeper knife that more people should be looking at, because this is a fantastic EDC banger. Just nailing the value, nailing the points, nailing all this stuff. So to recap, the design, Kickstarter, people voted on it. Outstanding design for usage and for the hand. The aesthetics are pretty good in my opinion. I like the look of it. It looks like a tool knife while at the same time being curvy and kind of having some visual pizzazz, which I think is fantastic. The mechanics of it are right on. It's very smooth. It's linear, almost hydraulic in its action, where it's the pressure of that plunge lock keeps it from going all the way, and then you just boom. Very, very good action. So the action and mechanics, fantastic. Noteworthy points and intended purpose kind of go hand in hand in all that. Noteworthy points, it was a Kickstarter design for EDC. value, and that's kind of its intended purpose. This is a high value EDC knife, and it does it very well. The cost to value ratio is fantastic. You get a lot of knife for the money, even though it's not the cheapest knife out there. It's right in the heart of value territory, and it is doing a great job of bringing the value to this package. And of course, for expectations and requests, as I just said, expectations, I expected a lot out of it, and it still exceeded. And requests would be a slightly larger size for larger hands and for larger jobs. And of course, a higher end version out of, say, contoured micarta or carbon fiber, titanium, the high-end materials, and something like S90V. I would love to see this blade in something like S90V. That being said, I'm going to stop it right there because it is a high value EDC. It does its intended purpose well. I'm going to give this one a 96 on the value. I am really, really infatuated with this EDC knife for its value and all that stuff. If there's one knife that you want for function, this is a hard one to say wouldn't do it. Like, there's other ones you can put out there, but this is a really, really good argument for a one knife budget value EDC if you're not a collector. And if you are a collector, you kind of want it for that same thing. It's a extraordinarily good EDC knife you can carry because it's high value, but will just perform as well as look good doing it and work well every time you want it to. And that's a high value EDC. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close. All right. So this has been the Kizer Cryptid 154 cm great knife EDC review. But in the meantime, go ahead, take this video, watch it twice, comment as much as you like, be mindful of side effects. Remember to like and subscribe. This has been your dose of Drew. I am said Drew, and you guys have a great rest of your night.